Good afternoon and welcome to NYFP. In midday trade on this Thursday, the stock averages remain in negative territory. Joining me to weigh in on the market action is Warren Meyers of DME Securities. Warren, good afternoon. Thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Well, we have been seeing wild swings in the equity markets this week. We're down sharply on Monday, up on Tuesday with a rebound, and we were down again yesterday. So this week, the Dow has seen triple-digit moves to both sides of the flat line. But given today's weaker than expected economic data releases as well as the earnings reports, what do you make of today's action?
It's a little disappointing in the action that we're seeing. But when you get this type of volatility that we're seeing, that usually gives you an indication that we've maybe reached or extended beyond a movement, and in this case it's been a very upward movement for quite some time, and that the market is now trying to regain and figure out exactly where it should be. So you're going to see a lot of volatility until the market straightens itself out. So the volatility aspect of it isn't that surprising. The economic data that we've seen lately coming in has been a little bit on the disappointing side, unfortunately, and I think that's causing some of this turbulence that we've been seeing.
Warren, you brought up volatility, but we've also been seeing volume here this week as well. Now, given that there has been some talk that this could be the beginning of a correction, what signals are you watching out for?
I'm watching a lot of things. I'm watching the VIX to see where that's going. I am looking at volume to see on the down days, is the volume picking up more so than on the up days? That might give you a strong indication that yes, their sentiment is starting to change and people are lightening their positions or taking short positions. Beyond that, though, it's a little bit tricky. What I'm looking to is the reaction you're seeing to the news that's coming out on a given day, be it the economic data we're seeing, be it the macro picture, or be it the earnings that we're seeing. If you tend to see muted reaction on the upside, it's something you expect to be very strong positive, and you're only getting a small muted upside move, that's another indication that maybe that sentiment is changing. So it's a combination of all those things.
And also this week we have been getting earnings out from the financials, tech sector, as well as consumer discretionary stocks as well. Have you seen any surprises?
There's been a lot of negative warnings coming into this, so in that regard, the beats we've had have been okay. The misses have been more or less in line or just small misses. So I think net pretty accurate to those lessened or lowered forecasts that we've seen. I think it's going to be interesting, though. This afternoon we have a couple of the very big tech names coming out with Microsoft, Google, and IBM, and I think that's going to be a real good indication to see how those three come in. If they come in strong or above expectations, that really could give a boost to this market that it needs, and if not, it could really extend this downward movement we've seen in 2 of the last 3 days.
And Warren, indeed, we get those tech names after the closing bell today, and I'm sure we'll all be watching Apple, which also comes out next week, given where their share prices are. But speaking of levels, I do want to ask you about the S&P 500 futures, which you watch. What are you watching right now? Well,
1540 seems to be a level on the downside, and we've been flirting with that for the last hour or so. I think if it can hold there, that would be a slight positive. On the downside below that, there's a pretty wide open gap, so it's going to be 1520, 25 would be a next level that I'd be looking at, and then ultimately you can very quickly drop below 15 if you get that momentum. I'm not saying we are, but that's on the upside. 1565, 75 are the next levels of resistance. If you could happen to turn around and push back up to near where we were at the highs a week ago, 1602 would be the levels I'd really look at for some serious resistance. We're quite a ways away from that, so I'm not expecting that either. I think the trend is going to be a lot of continued volatility based on the news of the day, and it's going to be very similar over the next week or two from what we've seen the last few days.
And Warren, last but not least, before we wrap it up for today, heading into tomorrow's session, it is light on the economic calendar. We don't have any major releases, but earnings season continues in earnest. So what will you be watching for, and do you expect to see the same kind of activity tomorrow?
I think you're going to see a lot of action based on the individual names that come out in earnings. It's also an expiration tomorrow. It's not a big one, so I'm not expecting too much on that. I think you tend to see the trend that you've seen the prior few days follow through on that expiration day. So it wouldn't surprise me if we close down today that maybe we'll be under a little bit of pressure tomorrow. But again, it's not the big expiration, so I don't think you can read too much into that.
Well, Warren, we'll see where we end up in today's trading session and what happens tomorrow. So thank you so much for your insight.
My pleasure. Thank you.